Welcome. I'm Alan St. George. You know, the first question I get in every interview is, what is Havencrest Castle? Well, my late wife, Adrianne, answered that about 50 years ago in her own unique way. She came up with a line that, although we didn't know it at the time, eventually became a kind of mission statement for our life here. Reality is for those who lack imagination. So what is Havencrest Castle? It depends on who you ask. In my very first video for this channel, I talked about how our home was built on a love story. So to some people, it's the Taj Mahal of Illinois. Well, the love part is true, but the architectural style is all wrong. Some people think it's a museum. It's not. Some people think it's a historic site. Not exactly. Some assume it's an attraction or a business. Not really.
Welcome to Havencrest Castle.
Thank you.
How are you today?
I'm well, thank you very much.
So while some aspects of those things might be partially correct, none of them really explain what this place actually is. Because Havencrest isn't just one thing. It's not finished. It's not static. It was not created for the public. And it wasn't built all at once. It grew. Not from an architect's blueprint, but from an idea. You know, I've always loved the quote, an idea is greater than a person. An idea is divine. Actually, Havencrest took its form and its purpose from a lot of ideas. Some practical, some completely impractical, but always seen through the lens of imagination and the mind's eye. And over time, those ideas turn into rooms and hallways and towers and gardens and details that probably didn't need to exist, but do anyway. Because that's what happens when two artists buy an old house up on a hill and then get carried away. Now, if you've seen some of the other videos, you already know a little about how it grew. But beyond the mechanics of it, what's harder to explain is why it grew the way it did. Because this wasn't about building a castle. It was about creating a haven we could truly inhabit, a world where imagination wasn't something you just talked about. It was something you lived inside of. And over the years, decades, in fact, that idea just kept expanding into architecture, into design, into costume parties, even into characters. And then things like making movies, whether amateur films made by us or professional documentaries made by others. Not because we needed to, but because it fit. Because once you start living that way, you don't really separate things anymore. The art, the house, the love story, the celebrations, the creativity. They all begin to blend together in one place. And people who come here, they can feel that. They don't just walk through rooms. They experience something that is both simple and complex, all at the same time. Sometimes they can't quite put it into words. But on the way back down the hill, they'll say things like, "I can't believe that place really exists. It felt like walking through a dream." Or, "I wasn't prepared for that feeling of love up there." And I understand exactly what they mean. Because Havencrest wasn't designed to be perfectly historically accurate or even architecturally correct. To us, that would have been boring. That already exists in other places around the world. Usually places with gigantic budgets or the state purse. Havencrest Castle was always about following that magical combination of inspiration blended with our own creativity and going farther than most people would. And then seeing where it leads, and sometimes revising along the way. So when people ask me, what is Havencrest Castle? I could give a very simple answer. But the truth is, Adrianne answered that question a long time ago when she said, "Reality is for those who lack imagination." And this place is what happens when you decide not to live in reality.